And it is Corby Davidson from the Hardline Show. Afternoons on the Ticket with us tonight and wearing the colors of his beloved
Sooner Red.
Your alma mater, right?
No, Mike, actually, it's not my alma mater, but
we don't need to get into that.
No, we don't. It would take a while, wouldn't it?
I'm wearing the colors of my alma mater tonight, too, and it didn't fare so well.
Sorry about your Hawkeyes.
Oh, Gonzaga.
Everybody pray for Mike tonight. He's not doing very well.
Gonzaga looked very, very good. So, the Jayhawks bounced. West Virginia looking like it might get into the Sweet 16, and the Sooners are in as well. You got to admire what Lon Kruger's been able to do there in Norman, but he's done it so many times before, we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, 5 teams, well, now 4 to the Sweet 16, which is bizarro. The fact that he's been fired by 4 schools to get to the 5th school to accomplish that. I don't think a lot of people thought anything when Lon Kruger got hired at Oklahoma, and now here they are a couple years later in the Sweet 16. Although that's a weird region they're in, right? I mean, they've already lost a number 1 and number 2 seed, and so now they got Michigan State, which they could do something now. You know?
Yeah, I think so. It's one of the few things I did get right in my bracket, though, was getting Oklahoma through this far. Kentucky, the big story coming in, obviously unbeaten. They cruise into the Sweet 16, and will face that most likely West Virginia now. I'm starting to think there may be a few teams in the field that can really give Kentucky a battle, but what do you think if you have to take the field or the Wildcats?
I would take the Wildcats.
Now, especially.
I mean, I saw them play against, I don't know who they played in their first round, like my high school or something like that. But to see them play, to see the athleticism, 9 deep, 10 deep, it is pretty crazy. How do they get those guys? I don't understand why everyone goes there. It's like, so I get the starting 5 is incredibly talented and freakishly athletic, but then you see those kids there and you say, all right, I'm going to go there too, knowing that I'm going to be on that second 5 unit. Not getting as much playing time as I could somewhere else. It's very fishy, Mike Ducey. Well, it's very fishy.
But Calipari does not hide the fact that he is grooming these guys to play in the NBA, and that's what he sells. I guess every coach does to a certain extent, but some try to hide it under the guise of the student-athlete thing. And he's like, well, you know, we're preparing you to be NBA players, and he's got a track record to show it.
Yeah, and he looks like the classic mob boss. You know, he wears the suits, he's got the hair, he's very scary. You know. I mean, your hair looks good, too.
Well, thank you very much.
You should have seen us jumping around earlier when we finally figured out how to
appreciate all of our Italian-American viewers staying with us here tonight. By the way,
how does my hair look? Am I okay tonight?
Let's go to Larry Brown's SMU Mustangs. You talk about fishy, the way they lost that game to UCLA the other day. They're in there for the first time since '93. That goaltending call happens. It somehow can't be reviewed. Morera just heartbreakingly apologizes afterward. What a kick in the gut way to end the season, huh?
You know, they should be in the Sweet 16 right now. There's no doubt about it. They had the big 17-0 run to have their, or 19-0 run, I believe it was,
I think you're
to have their big comeback. Yep. And it was, you know, they had a 7-point lead with a minute to go, and then that awful call at the end. We were on the air live when that was going on, and I wasn't right the rest of the show. And I don't really care about SMU that much, but it just seems so wrong and so painful of a way to end the season. You know, I don't know. It didn't feel right. It was a horrible call.
Well, and I wish they'd change that rule so they could look at it on video. Anyway,
why don't they?
Great year for Larry Brown, clearly. We'll see how long he decides to stay at SMU, but things look like they're in good hands there. All right, let's go from the tournament now. That obviously continues, but the other big story of the week, the Cowboys' controversial assignment of defensive lineman Greg Hardy. Is it, in fact, controversial? We'll get into that. I think it's pretty safe to say it is. The pass rusher who'd been with the Panthers, of course. You know the story by now. Last summer, a judge convicted Hardy of abusing his girlfriend. The verdict was set aside when he asked for a jury trial, and the case later was dismissed when Hardy's girlfriend would not cooperate with prosecutors. Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings among those who criticized the move. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones says the franchise understands that domestic violence is a serious issue. Jones feels that Greg Hardy understands that as well. Cowboys Vice President Charlotte Jones Anderson says this is an opportunity for the Cowboys to make a significant impact in a positive way. She says people will later look back and say this was the right move for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I think it was the wrong move, and I think it's disingenuous to say you're signing Greg Hardy because you feel in some ways you can turn a negative into a positive. The way to send a statement here against domestic violence was by not signing him in the first place.
Yeah,
Your thoughts?
It drives me insane. I said it all week long. And I know all the evidence isn't out there quite yet. And once the NFL, they're suing the state right now or the county where it all took place to to unseal the docket and the documents. And once we get that, we'll know a lot more. But still, at the same time, it feels so incredibly wrong and so incredibly dirty from the Cowboys' standpoint. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
You know, I'm not saying the guy never deserves to work again, and I realize that ultimately the case was thrown out. But the fact is, a judge did find last summer that there was enough evidence to convict the guy of this. And I'm hearing some people call it a he said, she said. No, but in this case, the she was a judge as well at one point. So no matter how it ultimately turned out. And again, I'm not saying he can never work again, but it didn't have to be here.
No, that's the thing.
And it didn't have to be now.
I didn't want it to be here. And I think that's everybody's wish in whatever town. You're like, okay, fine, the guy can work again at some point, but I don't want it to be in my town for my team. It just seems, you know, let's say the Cowboys are 6-0 when he gets reinstated, and here comes this guy after they're rolling really well, and this guy rolls out with all this history, and you're like, why? Why are you out here right now? It just seems so dirty.
And you look at the risk that Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett are taking here, not just in terms of the beating they've taken in terms of public perception, but bringing this guy into a locker room, which is pretty solid right now.
Very
and I know
room.
The upside from a football standpoint, and maybe he'll be on his best behavior. But you hear people who've worked with him in the past, you know, the assault charges and conviction aside, but just from a football standpoint, the kind of guy he can be in that locker room could cause some problems too.
He's been a bad egg since college. I mean, this isn't new. The domestic violence may be new, but this guy's been a big question mark. You know, should have been. He was a first-round talent that slid to the 6th round because nobody wanted to touch him because of all the issues he had at Ole Miss. So it's, you know, it's not like this guy's a choir boy. I think in the end we all know that it's Jim Garrett's fault, though, right? We can all unequivocally say that for allowing Jason to make that call. I think that's where we're headed with this right now.
All right. The Mavericks entering their final dozen regular season games now, starting tonight in Phoenix. The Mavs had not won a road game against a winning team in over 2 months. Monte Ellis beats the buzzer for his only points of the first half. Suns shot 55%. Dallas down just 34%, down 15 at the break. Mavs fight back in the third. Chandler Parsons with the bucket and the foul, part of a 23-7 run to close the quarter. Dallas is leading 86-80.
We're winning?
As they continue. Were you wearing a uniform? What do you mean?
Yeah, we're winning. I left the studio and we were losing. Now we're winning. This is great news.
Office. Yeah, the Mavs started the night in 7th. I find it hard to get a read on this team. You know, Rondo's been better at times here lately. You know, they beat a shorthanded Oklahoma City team and got a nice home win, and they lose to a good Memphis team. Haven't been a particularly good home team. Just the inconsistency is troubling right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was telling you in there before we went on the television that I have a bad feeling. I have a bad feeling when it comes to this team going into the playoffs and playing one of the best 4 teams in the conference. You know, we've seen what it takes to win a playoff series here. We've seen what it takes to go further than the first round. And maybe it's because the West is so incredibly tough. I just don't have a good feeling. And I don't know why. You know, I don't want to pinpoint it on anybody in particular, whether it's Rondo or whether it's Dirk, you know, getting older. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel right. Are you the same way?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I still am uneasy about the way Rondo shoots the basketball, frankly, and the fact that you've got a guy out there who can potentially be that much of a liability offensively during the crunch time of a game, a guy who handles the ball as much as he does.
You and I could shoot as good as he does.
And then the fact that Dirk, God bless him, has become, you know, especially defensively, such a liability. Not that he was ever strong in that area. And now is going through stretches where he looks more like a man his age playing basketball.
That's
tough.
You know,
I think if Chandler Parsons can continue to show the flashes he has in recent games, as somebody they can really run the offense through, that could be a big key. But a lot of things have to go right for this team to win a playoff series.
Exactly. And nobody thought much of this thing in 2011 when they started the playoffs. And, you know, maybe they can catch lightning in a bottle. I don't think so. I mean, hopefully they are facing a Portland or a Houston in the first round and they can get past them, and then we'll just see where the chips fall after that. But I just have that weird feeling that it's going to be a short postseason. Let's
go to the Rangers now. They open the regular season 2 weeks from tomorrow. Today, the exhibition season continues as Texas takes on Seattle in Peoria, Arizona. Rangers-Mariners, projected opening day starter Giovanni Gallardo, roughed up, gives up the 3-run shot. Kyle Sager in the first. Then in the third, former Ranger Nelson Cruz with the 3-run blast. Gallardo 8 earned runs in 4 2/3. Texas loses 8-0. Again, Corby from the ticket is with us. Jeff Bannister goes into the season without his ace, Yu Darvish. This guy we just saw throw here is going to have a big year. Derek Holland's going to have to be healthy and a big-time contributor. Welcome to the Rangers, Skip.
Seriously, how long have you been in this town now? 5 years?
This is my 21st Ranger season that I will be observing. Yes, thanks.
But
appreciate you watching.
Yeah, I don't feel good. As bad as I feel about the Mavericks right now, I feel infinitely worse about what's going on with the Rangers. And it's, a lot of it's Yu Darvish, but it's just been a weird ride over the last year and change. And it's tough to make heads or tails out of what's going to happen with this team and how the pitching staff's going to respond without Darvish and how the rest of the team's going to respond for that matter. I mean, he's their best player. It was such an awful break, and it's like, can a season start any worse?
Isn't it funny? It's only been one season that this team in recent years hasn't been part of the conversation right up to the final week. But it seems like it's been 10 years already.
I know. Yeah. I mean, they had the 3 years of really, really good baseball, and it was so fun and so exciting. And I feel like if there would have been if they would have closed the deal in 2011 like the Mavericks, that I can talk, even when I talk about the Mavericks, I feel like everything's justified because of the title. And I'm okay with them losing in the first round. And I feel like you should have a window after a championship season where you can't gripe too much. But with the collapse with the Rangers, it just makes everything hurt that much worse if you're a big hardcore Ranger fan like myself, Mike, being from Arlington, Texas.
I hate to end it on a negative downer like that, but that's all the time we have.
That's it?
Corby?
That's one segment of radio for me, Mike. That's it.
We just gave you about, I think, 10, 11 minutes.
I got 4 hours left.
That's an eternity in TV time, but don't our viewers know it right now. Corby, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Michael.
The Cobra.